The Dark Omen. The attack on Tau Ceti 4 was over in less than an hour. The planet had been thriving, one of humanity's most advanced outer colonies, home to 20 million people. And then, in a single brutal offensive, it was gone. Reduced to burning rubble. The invaders left nothing intact. No infrastructure, no survivors. Just a charred husk where a world had once stood. The name of the species responsible? The Zelari Dominion. They were an ancient war machine spanning thousands of star systems, their fleets unmatched, their warriors ruthless. They had conquered and devoured hundreds of civilizations. And now their next target had been chosen. The final target. High above the dead world of Tau Ceti 4, the Zelari Supreme Warlord, Zalvator, watched through the viewport of his command dreadnought, the harbinger of twilight. The destruction below was absolute. Another world broken. Another victory. Zalvator's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. "Transmit the report to the High Council," he ordered. A Zelari officer bowed low. "At once, Supreme Warlord." The High Council of the Dominion had been clear: humanity would not be given the chance to fight back. Their empire had grown too strong. Their technology was advancing at an alarming rate. If allowed to continue, they might pose a threat. The Dominion did not tolerate threats. Which was why Earth had already been marked for extermination. But Zalvator was no fool. Humanity had fought back before. Unlike the weaker races the Dominion had wiped out, humans did not surrender. They did not kneel. And they did not die easily. So, when the invasion came, there would be no mercy. No warnings. No demands for submission. Only annihilation. He turned to his war council. "Deploy the invasion armada," he growled. "Earth will burn before they even know we've arrived." The officers saluted. "It will be done, Supreme Warlord." And with that, the war engines of the Dominion roared to life. The message. The Zelari fleet moved swiftly. From the outer colonies to the core of human civilization, their ships traveled in silent, relentless formation. Unstoppable, inevitable. Nothing humanity had could match them in sheer numbers or firepower. The Dominion had done this before. Victory was certain. No. A single transmission reached them. A simple message carried on an ancient, forgotten frequency. One that should not have existed. One that no one should have been able to send. The message played on every Zelari ship, overriding their communication systems, forcing itself onto their screens, their devices, their neural links. A voice spoke. Cold. Measured. Unmistakably human. "Turn back." Zalvator's eyes narrowed. Then came the second part of the message. A set of coordinates. A challenge. A promise of something waiting beyond the veil of space. A warning. The Zelari, supreme masters of war, the architects of destruction, the scourge of the galaxy, had been warned. For the first time in their history. And that changed everything. The War Council's dilemma. The Supreme Warlord stood at the center of his War Council chamber, his warriors gathered in a circle. The message had played for all of them. And now, an unfamiliar sensation had crept into the room. Uncertainty. "What is the meaning of this?" one of the generals hissed. "How dare these vermin threaten us?" "It is not a threat," another officer growled. "It is desperation. An attempt to delay the inevitable." Zalvator remained silent, staring at the coordinates. Something about them felt wrong. "Run an analysis," he ordered. "Where do these coordinates lead?" His second-in-command, Warlord Cristal, worked quickly, his claws moving over the console with practiced efficiency. And then, his mandibles twitched in confusion. "This cannot be right." Zalvator turned. "Explain." Cristal hesitated. "These coordinates," he paused then continued, "they do not lead to a human colony. Not to a fleet. Not even to a star system." Zalvator's eyes narrowed. "Then where do they lead?" Cristal swallowed. "They lead to empty space." The War Council chamber fell silent. This made no sense. Humans were cunning, yes, but they were not suicidal. If they had sent this message, there was a reason. A trap? A psychological ploy? Zalvator did not believe in fear. But neither did he believe in coincidence. The impossible discovery. The harbinger of twilight arrived at the coordinates first. Nothing was there. No planets. No stations. No fleets. Just the endless abyss. And yet, as the Zelari warships hung in space, something felt off. Something was watching them. The sensors picked up nothing. And then, a ripple. A distortion in space itself. And the void, so vast, so empty, began to open. Something lay beyond it. Something ancient. Something wrong. And the voice, The same voice from the message spoke again. You should not have come. Salvator's blood ran cold. And in that moment, for the first time in his life, he knew what it felt like to be hunted. The rift opens. Salvator's warships hung motionless in the void. The universe itself seemed to shudder as the distortion in space widened before them. This was no natural phenomenon. It was something made. Something designed. The blackness of space twisted, unraveling like torn fabric. Energy flared at the edges, ghostly tendrils of light slithering outward. And beyond the rift, there was something there. A shape. A shadow vast and endless. The Dominion fleet, masters of war, the undisputed predators of the galaxy, had suddenly become prey. And the voice, that voice, spoke again. You were warned. The transmission was untraceable. No source. No origin. Just a whisper that slithered into their minds like an unseen predator circling in the dark. Salvator's mandibles clenched. He did not believe in ghosts. Scan the anomaly, he ordered. Now. His officers scrambled to obey. The scanners hummed, analyzing, processing. And then, the readings came back empty. Nothing. No matter. No energy. Yet something was there. Something was looking back at them. The first contact that shouldn't exist. Supreme Warlord, Cristal's voice was unsteady, his clawed fingers gripping the console. We are receiving an incoming transmission. Salvator's eyes narrowed. From where? Cristal hesitated. The void. That was impossible. The warlord straightened. Patch it through. A moment later, the bridge darkened. The hollow projector flickered to life, forming an image out of static. A human figure stood there. Or at least it looked human. Tall. Cloaked in shadow. Eyes like burning stars. A presence that did not belong in this universe. And when it spoke, the Zelari warlords felt it, deep in their bones, in the marrow of their existence. You seek to conquer Earth, the figure said. And yet you do not understand what waits for you there. The Dominion officers bristled, their pride unshaken. You are nothing, one of them growled. Your kind will fall like the rest. The figure tilted its head. You think this is war? Salvator felt something shift. Not in the air. Not in the ship. But in reality itself. The rift. It was growing. And now he could see them. Shapes emerging from the void. Not ships. Not creatures. Weapons. Vast constructs unlike anything in the Dominion's archives. Serrated edges. Writhing cores of energy that pulsed like living things. And in the distance something even larger. Something incomprehensible. Something waiting. Watching. The human figure stepped forward, eyes glowing. We buried the last ones who tried to take our world. Pause. Would you like to see where? The void ripped open. And hell came with it. The battle that never began. Alarms shrieked across the Dominion fleet. The void ships moved without sound, without propulsion. They simply existed in one moment and in the next they were there. Right inside the Zelari formation. That was impossible. Nothing could breach Dominion war shields. Nothing could bypass their defenses. And yet, they had. Salvator barely had time to react before the first strike came. A Dominion battleship, one of their finest, was there, whole, pristine. And then, in the space of a single breath, it was gone. Not destroyed. Not shattered. Just erased. As if it had never existed. Silence fell over the command bridge. Then chaos. Fire, someone roared. The fleet unleashed everything. Energy beams. Plasma torpedoes. Supercharged mass drivers. A wall of destruction capable of reducing planets to dust. And yet, the void consumed it. The weapons vanished. The firepower of an entire fleet simply blinked out of existence, absorbed into the darkness as if it had never been. Salvator's blood turned to ice. The human figure spoke again. We are not your prey. A whisper. A warning. A sentence. And then, the Dominion fleet started to vanish. One by one. Not destroyed. Not attacked. Just removed. Salvator watched, horror gripping his mind as his officers ceased to be. Cristal looked at him, mandibles parting in a silent question. Then, he was gone. Only empty air remained where he had stood. The warlord's choice. Salvator had led the Dominion to countless victories. He had never known fear. Until now. Until them. Whatever the humans had become, whatever power they had awakened. It was beyond war. Beyond reason. Beyond the Dominion itself. His fleet was being unmade. Not as an act of battle. Not as revenge. But as something casual. As if they were insignificant. Salvator turned to the figure. His voice, once strong, now wavered. What are you? The figure stepped closer. For the first time in his life, the Supreme Warlord felt small. You were warned. Pause. You will not be warned again. The void began to close. The last remnants of the Dominion fleet hung in the abyss, waiting to be erased. And then, the Warlord made his choice. Retreat, he whispered. It was not a command. It was a prayer. And as the surviving ships fled into hyperspace, abandoning the campaign against Earth forever, Zalvader knew deep in his soul, humanity had become something else. Something unknowable. Something the Dominion would never challenge again. The flight of the defeated. Zalvader sat in silence aboard his warship, staring at the distorted space where the void had swallowed his fleet. The survivors, barely a fraction of the once mighty Dominion armada, fled at maximum warp, racing away from Sol like hunted animals. Yet something gnawed at the Supreme Warlord's mind. They had not been defeated. They had been dismissed. It was the deepest humiliation imaginable. For millennia, the Dominion had believed itself supreme. They had burned civilizations to ashes, shattered empires that dared defy them. And yet here, against a world of mere primates, they had not even fought a battle. Because the humans had never let them. A tremor ran through his mandibles as he watched the galactic map. Then something even more terrifying happened. A new signal appeared on the display. A single vessel. No fleet. No warships. Just one. And it was following them. The Phantom Pursuer. Supreme Warlord, something is wrong. Zalvader turned his gaze to the sensor officer. The Dominion had strict discipline, yet this warrior's claws trembled as he tapped at the control panel. Speak. The officer gulped. We are being pursued. Zalvader's mandibles clicked. One of our own? The officer shook his head. No. It's them. The warlord's breath stilled. A human war fleet? The officer's skin darkened in fear. No. It's a single ship. Zalvader's body tensed. One ship. Yes, Supreme Warlord. Just one. A single vessel following a fleet of hundreds. Madness. Why would they send one ship? Zalvader muttered. Are they mocking us? But then, the ship moved. Not like normal vessels, which accelerated, banked, or adjusted course with precision. This thing blinked. One moment it was thousands of kilometers away. The next it was there. Right beside them. The crew froze. Zalvader's blood turned to ice. Contact with the unknown. Open communications, Zalvader barked, masking the tremor in his voice. A moment later, the holoscreen activated. The figure appeared again. No background. No ship interior. Just an empty void. Like before, its form flickered, shifting between states of being. But this time its face was visible. It was human, but wrong. Skin too pale. Eyes burning like neutron stars. And when it smiled, Zalvader felt his warrior's pride break. You're running, the figure said. Its voice was calm. Too calm. Zalvader clenched his mandibles. We are not running. We are regrouping. The human tilted its head. Regrouping? Pause. Against what? Zalvader flinched. His warriors, the mightiest of the Dominion, stood paralyzed, unable to speak. The human stepped forward, its image flickering. You are no longer at war. Zalvader stiffened. The Dominion? The Dominion is irrelevant. The bridge fell silent. Something about those words felt final. Permanent. Zalvader had never felt fear before. But now, he was drowning in it. The final warning. The human raised a single hand. The void rippled. And suddenly a new image filled the screen. A planet. No, a graveyard. An entire world stripped of life. Not burned. Not bombed. Empty. Zalvader's breath caught in his throat. He knew this world. It had been a Dominion stronghold. Had been. Now it was nothing. The human's gaze darkened. We told them to leave us alone. The warlord felt his mind crack. What are you? The human's smile faded. And in that moment Zalvader saw it. Not a person. Not a species. But something else. Something that had touched the abyss, and survived. Leave. The Dominion warlord did not hesitate. He cut the transmission. Turned to his officers. And spoke the words that would never have been uttered before. Return to Dominion space. His warriors hesitated. What do we tell the High Council? Zalvader's mandibles clenched. He turned his gaze back to the sensors, watching as the human vessel vanished without a trace. And he whispered the truth. We tell them Earth is forbidden. Forever. The return to Dominion space. Zalvader's flagship materialized in Dominion space, emerging from the void like a wounded beast slinking back to its den. The remnants of his once mighty armada followed, their numbers reduced to a mere fraction of their former glory. The High Council was waiting. The moment his fleet entered Dominion territory, a priority transmission arrived. Report. The voice was clipped, demanding. Zalvader had ruled through conquest and strength, but now he felt something alien, uncertainty. He hesitated. Then finally he answered. The invasion is over. The words tasted like ash. Silence followed. Then a new voice, sharp as a blade. Over? You were dismissed like lowly scavengers. Explain yourself, Supreme Warlord. Zalvader clenched his mandibles. We did not face an enemy that could be defeated. Laughter erupted from the High Council chamber. Mocking. Disbelieving. Zalvader's mandibles twitched in irritation. You think I am weak, he growled. That I turned away in cowardice. You, who sit safe behind your walls, you have no idea what we faced. He leaned forward, his massive frame pressing against the holoscreen. We encountered something beyond war. The laughter faded. The counselors exchanged glances. One of them, the eldest of the High Council, leaned forward. Explain. The shadow of Earth. Zalvader took a slow breath. Then he told them. Of the human fleet that never fired a shot. Of the single ship that followed them home, not to hunt but to watch. Of the ruined world that had once belonged to the Dominion, now a hollow grave. The chamber fell silent. Then the eldest counselor spoke again. And what did the humans say? Zalvader closed his eyes. He saw that thing again. Not a man. Not a warrior. Something more. Something that had looked into the abyss and stepped beyond it. He opened his eyes and repeated the words that had sealed the fate of the Dominion. Leave. A single word. A command. A sentence. The High Council paled. Then the eldest counselor, his voice barely above a whisper, spoke. Then we must obey. The new law. The Dominion had ruled through conquest. Through war. Through blood. But no war fleet would ever approach Sol again. The High Council convened in secret, their discussions lasting for days. And when they emerged, a new law was declared. A law never before spoken in Dominion history. A law of surrender. Earth was to be forbidden. No ship would approach it. No fleet would ever darken its skies. It was not an act of mercy. It was an act of self-preservation. The Dominion would pretend that Sol did not exist. That humans were a mere whisper of history. That they had never sent their war fleet. That they had never been dismissed like insects beneath a boot. The final warning. Years passed. Decades. The Dominion avoided Sol religiously. Its fleets expanded elsewhere, conquering lesser species, claiming new worlds. But they never spoke of Earth. Never even uttered the name. Until one day, a lone Dominion scout ship, lost in deep space, strayed too close to the Sol system. The crew panicked when they realized their mistake. They tried to turn back. Tried to flee. But then, a message appeared on their monitors. One sentence. No voice. No transmission. Just a single message. Written in perfect Dominion script. We told you to leave. The ship was never seen again. The throne of ghosts. Zalvader, now old and weary, sat in his war chamber, staring at the void beyond his window. He had spent his life as a conqueror. As a god of war. But in the end he had only one title left. The warlord who learned when to run. And as he closed his eyes for the last time, he whispered the words that would haunt the Dominion forever. Earth was never a target. It was a warning. End of story. They thought Earth was just another world to conquer, until a single message changed everything. What do you think the humans became? Subscribe now for more terrifying sci-fi mysteries.